So this video covers virtual LAN, its membership, how to configure it, as well as the advantages of having virtual LAN. A station is considered to be a part of a LAN whenever it physically belongs to that particular LAN. So, virtual LAN is something like a local area network configured by software and not by the physical wiring. So, everything will be maintained or configured by software, and there is no physical wiring between them. Let us use an example to elaborate this definition. As you can see in this slide, let us consider it as an engineering firm in which 9 stations are grouped into 3 LANs that are connected by switches. The first 3 engineers work together as a first group. The next 2 engineers work together as a second group, and the last 4 engineers work together as a third group. So the LAN is configured to allow this arrangement. But what would happen if the administrator need to move 2 engineers from the first group to a third group to speed up the project being done by the third group? The LAN configuration would need to be changed in this particular case. The network technician must rewire, reconfigure. The problem is repeated if another week the 2 engineers move back to the previous group. In a switched LAN, changes in work group means physical changes in the network configuration. This slide shows the same switched LAN divided into virtual LAN. The whole idea of VLAN technology is to divide the LAN into logical instead of physical or segments. A LAN can be divided into several logical LANs called VLANs. Each VLAN is a work group in an organization. If a person moves from one group to another, there is no need to change the physical configuration. A group member in VLAN is defined by software and not by the hardware. So any station can be logically moved from one VLAN to another. All members belongs to a VLAN can receive the broadcast message sent to a particular VLAN. This means that if a station moves from VLAN 1 to VLAN 2, it receives broadcast message sent to VLAN 2 but no longer receives the broadcast message sent to VLAN 1. So whatever the problem we had in previous case has been solved by using virtual LAN. So moving a group of engineers from one group to another through software is much more easier than changing the entire configuration in a physical network. One more advantage of VLAN network is it even allows the grouping of station connected to different switches in a VLAN. So you can see in this there is a backbone local area network which with two switches and three VLANs. So station from switch A and B belongs to each LAN or each VLAN. So this kind of configurations is useful in companies with two separate buildings. Each building can have its own switched LAN connected to a backbone. So people in first building and people in second building can be in a same group work even though they are connected to different physical LANs. Now we'll see what are the characteristics can be used to group stations in a VLAN. So depending upon the requirement, different vendors use different characteristics such as interface numbers, port numbers, MAC addresses, IP addresses, or IP multicast addresses, or the combination of these to form a particular group of virtual LAN. So, as I said, one characteristic is MAC address. So, some vendors use the MAC address, that is, the 48-bit MAC addresses can be used as a membership characteristics. They can specify a particular address belong to this particular virtual LAN. So they can group it based on the MAC address of a system. Similarly, some people use or some administrators will use the IP address. We know there is a 32-bit address for each of the system. So this 32-bit IP addresses will be used as membership characteristics. Some VLAN vendors use the multicast IP address as a membership characteristics. Multicasting at the IP layer is a now translate to multicasting at data link layer. Some vendors even use switch interface numbers as a membership characteristic. For example, an administrator can define that station coming or connected to port 1, 2, 3, or something say 7 belong to one particular LAN, and station connected to some say port 4, 10, and 12 belongs to virtual LAN 2, and so on. But recently the softwares are available from some vendors which allow all these characteristics to be combined. So the administrator can choose one or more characteristics when installing the software. So based on this, a software can be reconfigured to the change in the setting. When it comes to configuration, how a virtual LAN can be configured? There are three different ways in which a virtual LAN can be configured. So first one is manual configuration, second one is semi-automatic configuration, and the third one is automatic configuration. Let us see how it will be done using manual configuration. On a manual configuration, the network administrator uses the VLAN software to manually assign the station into different VLAN at setup. Later, migration from one VLAN to another is done manually. We have to note that this is not a physical configuration, it is a logical configuration. So the term manually here means that the administrator types the port numbers or IP address or other characteristics using the virtual LAN software. The next one is automatic configuration. In an automatic configuration, stations are automatically connected or disconnected from a LAN, or that is a VLAN, using criteria defined by the administrator. For example, the administrator can define the project number as a criteria for being a member of a group. When a user changes the project, he or she automatically migrates to a new VLAN. And the last one is semi-automatic configuration, wherein uh, it lies somewhere between manual configuration and automatic configuration. That is, usually the initial settings will be done manually. With migrations, everything will be done automatically later. Let us see what are the advantages of having virtual LAN over the normal LAN. There are three advantages. The first one is cost and the time. Second one is creating virtual groups, and third one is security. So under cost and time reduction, we know that VLAN can reduce the migration cost of a station going from one group to another. That is, when we move from one group to another group, when we shift from one group to another group, so everything has to be, that is there should be a physical reconfiguration. So it is going to take time, as well as, since it is reconfiguration, it is involve cost too. So instead of physically moving from one station to another, so it is much easier and quicker to move by using a software. Second one is creating virtual work groups. VLANs can be used to create this virtual work groups. For example, in a particular campus environment, professors working in same project can send broadcast messages to one another without the necessity of belonging to the same department. So they can use a broadcast messaging option, and since they are virtually connected, virtual LAN, so they can send the messages easily. So this is going to reduce the traffic if the multicasting capability of IP was previously used. And the last one is the security. So since it is manually, sorry, it is automatically moving from one network to one more network, virtual LAN provides an extra measure of security. People belonging to the same group can send a message with a guaranteed assurance that users in some other group will not receive the message, because whatever the message is sent, it is to that particular virtual LAN only. So it will not be sent, or it will not be broadcasted to the one more virtual or one more group. So we have learnt about virtual LAN, why we go for virtual LAN, how it can be configured, and what are the characteristics will be used to form virtual LAN, and finally we have seen the advantages of going for virtual LAN. Thank you.